There's a version of you that has already achieved everything you want: better health, more money, deeper relationships, work that actually means something. That version of you exists. And the gap between who you are now and who that person is isn't a gap in effort. It's not a gap in information. You've read the books. You know what to do. The gap is in identity. And until you understand that, every goal you set, every resolution you make, every new chapter you announce will eventually collapse back into the same patterns. Not because you're weak, but because you've been playing the game with the wrong rules. In the next few minutes, I want to show you the one shift that changes everything. A shift so fundamental that once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't motivational. This is structural. It's about how human behavior actually works at the level of identity, and why almost every approach to self-improvement gets it exactly backwards. Stay with me, because this might be the most important reframe you encounter this year. Here's how most people approach a goal. They decide on an outcome: lose 30 pounds, make $100,000, write a book, run a marathon. Then they work backwards to the behaviors: exercise more, spend less, write daily, train consistently. And then they rely on willpower and motivation to execute those behaviors until the outcome appears. This is the standard model: outcome to behavior to hope. And it fails. Not sometimes, almost always. The research on this is overwhelming. Studies on New Year's resolutions show that over 80% are abandoned within 6 weeks. Not because people don't want the outcome, they do, but because behavior change driven by outcomes alone has no anchor. There's nothing holding it in place when motivation fades, when life gets hard, when the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels too wide to cross. The outcome is too far away. The behavior is uncomfortable. And the person doing the behavior, their identity, hasn't changed at all. They're still fundamentally the same person, doing unfamiliar things, waiting for external results to prove they're different. That's not transformation. That's performance. And performance without identity is exhausting. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, makes an observation that sounds simple but cuts deep. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Notice what he's pointing at. Not the outcome, not the behavior, the person. The most durable changes in human behavior don't start with what you want to achieve. They start with who you decide to be. The person who says, "I'm trying to quit smoking," is still a smoker trying to resist. The person who says, "I don't smoke, that's not who I am," has rewritten the identity. Same external reality. Completely different psychological position. This isn't semantics, it's architecture. When your behavior is rooted in identity, it doesn't require constant motivation because it's not a performance. It's an expression. You're not forcing yourself to act like the person you want to become. You are that person. The behavior flows naturally from that self-concept. The writer writes because that's who writers are. The athlete trains because that's what athletes do. The disciplined person makes the hard choice because that's what disciplined people do. Not because they feel like it, but because it's consistent with who they are. Identity is the anchor that holds behavior in place when motivation disappears. So how do you change your identity? Not by declaring it and hoping it sticks, not by affirmations in the mirror. You do it through evidence. Every time you act in alignment with the person you want to become, every single time, you cast a vote. You accumulate evidence. And over time, the evidence becomes undeniable. Your brain updates its model of who you are. This is backed by decades of research in behavioral psychology. Self-concept, how we define ourselves, is not fixed. It's constructed and reconstructed continuously based on observed behavior. You watch yourself act and you draw conclusions about who you are, which means the path is simple, even if it's not easy. Decide who you are becoming, not what you want to have, not what you want to achieve, who you are becoming. Then ask, with every decision, what would that person do right now? Not what would motivate you, not what would feel good. What would that person, the fully realized version of you, naturally do in this moment? Then do that thing. Once, then again, then again. Each repetition is a vote. Each vote reshapes the identity. Each identity shift makes the next vote easier. This is the compounding that nobody talks about. Not habits compounding into results. Identity compounding into a fundamentally different person. The ancient Stoics had a practice they called premeditatio, premeditation of the person you intend to be. Every morning, before engaging with the world, they would visualize not just what they would do, but who they would be, what virtues they would embody, what choices they would make. They weren't setting goals. They were rehearsing identity. 2,000 years later, the most rigorous research in behavioral science confirms what they intuited. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. So here's the only question that matters. Who are you deciding to be? Not who you want to become someday, who you are deciding right now, today, to be. Because that decision, made consistently, expressed in small actions, reinforced by evidence, is how the gap closes. Not through force, not through willpower, through identity. Start there. Everything else follows. If this shifted something for you, sit with the question. Write it down. Who am I deciding to be? And if you want to go further, the next video I'm releasing takes this idea into one of the most overlooked areas of self-development, something the highest performers in history all understood, and almost nobody practices today. I'll see you there.